Dale Harmon was elbow deep in a lawnmower engine when the recruiter's drone landed on his porch. 41 years old, divorced, too. Tours in places that don't show up on tourist maps. Currently employed fixing small engines in a town so small the Waffle House counted as nightlife. Species Coalition Reference Number 7, the drone announced. Seeks contract labor for hazardous off-world terrain survey. Compensation substantial. Survival rate variable. Dale wiped grease on his jeans. Variable how? Historically low. They feeding me? Nutritionally adequate rations will be provided. Dale considered this the way most men consider a weather forecast. All right, he said. Beats the mower. The drone paused, processing. You have not asked what planet. You gonna tell me eventually? Yes. Then I'll find out eventually. He signed the contract with a socket wrench still in his other hand. The recruitment office smelled like ozone and bad decisions. A coalition officer named Vex Amar, plated in something like ceramic armor, slid a datapad across the desk. Human Harmon. This assignment is classified threat tier. 9 of the last 4 survey teams sent to designate. KX Theta, none returned intact. The planet's biosphere is, she searched for the translated word, enthusiastic about killing things. Sounds like my ex-wife's garden. Vex Amar's eye ridges twitched, a gesture her species used for confusion. This is not a metaphor, I understand. Don't worry about it. You are aware this contract carries no guarantee of remains retrieval? Figured as much. You seem unconcerned. Dale shrugged, signing the final line. Concern doesn't fix an engine. Concern doesn't dodge a mortar. Mostly it just makes your hands shake. Vex Amar stared at him for a long moment. The universal alien expression for, this creature is either enlightened or defective. She stamped the contract anyway. Don't blame me, she said quietly, if you come back in a box. Dale grinned. Wouldn't be my first time in one. The transport bay held 4 other bodies, and Dale was, by a wide margin, the least impressive of them. Tessic Vorna stood nearly 8 feet tall, its skin a shifting mineral, gray that hardened visibly under stress, living armor grown into its own hide. Tessic had survived the Vremnos siege, a battle so brutal the Coalition renamed a unit of radiation exposure after it. Its 4 eyes tracked Dale up and down with the enthusiasm of someone assessing a broken vending machine. Eileen Vaycross, small, quick, feathered along the forearms, was a decorated void diver, someone who'd once survived unshielded vacuum exposure for 11 seconds by sheer force of biological adaptation and stubbornness. 11 seconds doesn't sound like much until you learn the previous record was 4. Dr. Kessa Rowe, segmented and insectile, carried 3 doctorates and had personally cataloged 42 Tier 8 toxins by tasting them in controlled doses, because her species metabolized poison the way humans metabolized gossip. And Bram Ola, broad-shouldered, tusked, a war-scarred veteran of the Coalition's mechanized infantry, who had once held a collapsing tunnel shut with his own bare hands for 6 minutes, so his squad could evacuate. Then there was Dale, average height, soft around the middle, no visible mutations, no elite service record, no biological party trick. His file, when Elin pulled it up, was almost insultingly plain. Species human, Elin read aloud. Notable biological traits, none listed. Combat classification, infantry. Retired. Survival specialization, unspecified. That's it? Bramwell rumbled. No claws, no shell. No venom glands? Nope, Dale said, settling into a jump seat that was slightly too small for him. No environmental adaptation module? I got a jacket. Tessic's stone-gray skin flickered, the equivalent of a raised eyebrow. You possess no defensive biology whatsoever. How did your species survive to develop spaceflight? Dale thought about it for a second. Mostly by being annoying and hard to kill in ways that don't show up on paper. The squad exchanged a look that translated, across 4 different facial structures, into the same universal sentiment. We've been assigned a liability. Kessa Rowe, the toxicologist, made a small, clicking sound of professional concern and began quietly reviewing emergency resuscitation protocols, the human-specific ones she'd need to invent from scratch, since apparently nobody had ever bothered writing an KX Theta's gravity fluctuates by 40% during lunar alignment, Tessic warned. Bones have been known to fracture from standing too quickly. Dale nodded slowly. So like a trampoline, but rude. What is a trampoline? Big bouncy thing kids jump on. Sometimes they break an arm. We keep making more. Island stared. You allow your offspring to use this device knowingly? Every summer. Bramola's tusks clicked together, a nervous tell. Your species does this voluntarily? For enjoyment? Some kids cry. Most get back on. Kessa began logging this. Fascinating. Pain tolerance conditioning begins in juvenile stage. We just call it Tuesday. The atmosphere contains trace amounts of corrosive spore clouds. Kessa explained, mandibles clicking anxiously. Prolonged exposure causes respiratory scarring within minutes. Like ragweed season, Dale said. 4 alien heads turned toward him in unison. Ragweed, Ilan repeated. Is this a weapon? It's a plant. Makes half my hometown sneeze themselves stupid every August. We just take a pill and keep mowing the lawn. You continue outdoor labor during a known respiratory hazard event. Grass doesn't cut itself. Tessik's stone skin visibly hardened, an instinctive stress response. This ragweed, does it possess intent to harm? No, it's just rude. And we do not have a translation for rude plant. You will by Thursday. Apex predators on KX Theta hunt in coordinated packs of 12. Bramola growled, checking his weapon twice. Bite force capable of shearing coalition-grade plating. Sounds like my ex-wife's family reunion. Silence. Explain, Aelin said carefully. 12 of them, all talking over each other. All convinced they're right. All real interested in what you're doing wrong with your life. You just nod, eat the potato salad, and leave before dessert. Kessa's antennae twitched in what Dale had learned was alien anxiety. Does this family possess lethal capability? Only to my patients.
Bramola.
Dead serious. We have prepared incendiary countermeasures for the predator packs. Should we prepare countermeasures for your family as well? Nah, just don't RSVP. The terrain includes acidic. Sinkholes that dissolve organic matter in under 90 seconds, Tessik reported grimly. One misstep and there is no retrieval. Like the crawl space under my mother-in-law's porch. Oh, acidic? Might as well be. I lost a whole ladder down there once. And some dignity. Island's feathers flared, a visible stress response. You have encountered a hazard comparable to this before? Encountered it, lost to it, came back the next weekend anyway. Why would you return? She makes good pie. Kessa was now taking notes at a frantic pace, muttering something about human threat-reward calculus. Being fundamentally broken. Cycle 5 radiation. Background radiation. On the surface exceeds lethal. Thresholds for unshielded exposure. Within the hour. Kessa said, voice tight. Dale considered this. So like a bad sunburn, but angrier. This is not comparable. Had one in Texas once. Skin peeled for a week. Still went back to the lake the next summer. Bramola set down the equipment case he was holding. Slowly. You returned, knowingly, to the source of your injury. Wasn't the lake's fault I forgot sunscreen. You assign no blame to the environment that harmed you? Nah, just gotta respect it better next time. The squad had stopped checking Dale's file for hidden abilities. They'd started checking it for a diagnosis. KX Theta looked from orbit like something had taken a beautiful planet and put it through a blender set to spite, storm clouds the color, of old bruises churned across a sky, streaked with electrical discharge. The ground below was a patchwork of black glass plains, jagged crystal ridges and swamps that steamed with faint green vapor. Even the wind, when the shuttle doors opened, sounded hostile, a low, grinding howl that set every alien instrument on the squad suits into alert mode. Tessik's stone skin hardened instantly into full defensive plating, a reflex the size of a countertop. Island's feathers plastered flat against the sudden pressure shift, wings twitching uselessly in air too thick to be useful. Bramula's tusked jaw clenched as his suit's cooling system screamed a warning. Sweat, or whatever tusked alien sweated, beading along his brow ridge. Kessa's antennae drooped, her toxin sensors already flooding with data she clearly did not like. Every suit readout blinked amber, then red. Atmospheric pressure differential critical, Kessa reported, voice strained through her translator. Recommend immediate environmental seal reinforcement. Dale stepped off the ramp in his jacket. Just the jacket. No helmet, no suit, no reinforced boots. He looked around at the black glass plains, the churning purple sky, the steaming swamp in the distance. Huh, he said. Reminds me of Ohio in March. The squad froze. You are not wearing environmental protection, Bramwell said slowly, like he was talking to something that might bolt. Didn't think I'd need it. Dale squinted at the horizon. Air's a little thin, bit of a metal taste to it. Nothing a cold beer wouldn't fix. Our suits are reporting lethal exposure thresholds, Elin said, feathers still flat with tension. You should be experiencing severe respiratory distress. Dale took a slow breath, coughed once, shrugged. I mean, it's not pleasant. But I've smelled worse in a Humvee after 4 guys ate gas station burritos. Tessik's 4 eyes fixed on him with something between alarm and reassessment. That statement, Tessik said carefully, should not be biologically possible. Lot of things about me shouldn't be possible, Dale said, hitching his pack up. Where's camp? Nobody answered right away. They were too busy staring. The spore storm. The first crisis hit before breakfast. A wall of corrosive violet spores rolled toward the camp, thick enough to blot out the horizon. Full alarm. Kessa screamed protocol numbers. Bram-Ulla deployed a reinforced containment, dome that took 4 hands and 90 seconds to erect. Suit servos whining under the strain. Dale looked at the incoming cloud, looked at his jacket, and pulled the collar up over his nose and mouth. Human Harmon, get inside the dome, Tessik barked. In a sec. Dale grabbed a tarp from the supply crate, weighted the corners with rocks, and rigged a simple lean-to windbreak facing away from the spore wall. The same trick he'd used keeping dust storms out of a forward. Outpost a decade and 2 wars ago. The spore cloud rolled over camp. The dome held. Dale's lean-to held too mostly, minus some coughing and a slightly singed eyebrow. That, Kessa said afterward, staring at his intact, unhospitalized lungs, should have required Tier 4 respiratory intervention. Wind was blowing the wrong way for it to really get me. You just gotta read which way the dust wants to go. Kessa logged this with visible confusion. The sinkhole field. The squad's automated mapping drone plotted a route around an entire field of acid sinkholes. A 2-day detour, full hazard suits required, mug tethers deployed between every team member. Dale looked at the field, looked at the map, looked at the faint discoloration patterns in the black glass. Sinkholes are wherever the ground's darker and kinda glossy looking, right? Affirmative, Kessa said. Why? Then just don't step on the shiny parts. He walked straight across the field, weaving a lazy, unhurried path between the dark patches, whistling something none of the aliens recognized as music. It took him 11 minutes. The squad's 2-day detour route took the rest of them until nightfall. Mug-tethered and terrified, watching Dale's silhouette casually skip an acid pit like it was a puddle after rain. Alien log entry, Kessa Row, Field Journal, Day 3. Subject Harmon continues to demonstrate hazard avoidance behavior inconsistent with any known combat or survival training. His pattern recognition appears intuitive, instinctual, as though the environment itself is less dangerous to him than it is to us. I am beginning to suspect this is not because human Harmon is exceptionally skilled. I am beginning to suspect it is because his species has already survived worse. So many times for so long that this now simply looks like Tuesday to him. The Predator Pack. 12 apex predators, exactly as advertised, converged on the camp at dusks and coordinated, silent, terrifyingly efficient. Bramwell rallied the squad into defensive formation, incendiary charges primed, everyone bracing for a fight that could easily kill them all. Dale stood up from the campfire, grabbed a pot lid and a metal spoon, and started banging them together while yelling nonsense at the top of his lungs. The predators stopped, confused, then fled into the dark. Silence except for the crackling fire. What Bram-Ulla said finally was that every dog and coyote back home hates loud dumb noise. Figured these be the same. Worked. You guessed. Educated guess. Tessik's stone plating slowly softened back to resting state. The alien equivalent of a held breath finally released. You risked your life on a guess. Wasn't much of a risk. Worst case, I just start running and yell louder. The radiation storm. The final and worst crisis. A rolling wave of lethal background radiation, forecast to blanket the whole valley for 6 hours. The squad scrambled into the one shielded bunker on site, barely large enough for 4 bodies, let alone 5. There's no room, Elin said, panicked. Human Harmon, you'll have to remain outside the shielding. Dale looked at the bunker, looked at the storm rolling in, shrugged and started digging. By the time the radiation wave hit, he'd carved himself a shallow trench, packed dense mineral soil over a lean-to frame, and tucked himself underneath it like he'd done it 1,000 times before because, in 100 different wars, on one small blue planet he basically had. 6 hours later, the squad emerged from the bunker to find Dale sitting on top of his makeshift shelter, eating field rations, mildly sunburned and thoroughly unbothered. "You survived unshielded radiation exposure," Kessa said. Voice hushed in a hole you dug with your hands. "Learned that trick from a sergeant who learned it from his grandpa. Works on radiation, works on shrapnel, works on bad in-laws showing up unannounced." Nobody laughed. They were too busy rewriting their threat assessment of the entire human species. Something had shifted. Tessic no longer questioned Dale's judgment on terrain. Island began mimicking his shelter techniques without being asked. Bram Ula, the war-scarred veteran of 6 major campaigns, started deferring to a man with no armor plating and no claws whenever the ground looked wrong. "I do not understand it," Kessa admitted one night, watching Dale calmly repair a cracked water filter with duct tape and stubbornness. "By every metric, he should be the most vulnerable member of this team." "He is not weak," Tessic said quietly, stone skin settling into something almost like respect. "He is simply calibrated differently. His species has clearly survived things that would end ours. He is not fearless because he is strong. He is fearless because to him this is survivable. He has already decided that." Kessa considered this for a long moment. "That," she said, "is somehow more unsettling." On the 14th night, the ground began to hum. Not wind, not storm. A low, resonant vibration that traveled up through the soles of every boot in camp. Rhythmic, deliberate, organized. Kessa's sensors lit up in patterns none of them had seen before. Tessic's stone skin hardened fully, plate by plate, faster than Dale had ever seen it move. "That is not seismic activity," Tessic said, voice tight. "That is movement, coordinated. Beneath us." Bramula raised his weapon toward the darkness. Survey logs mention nothing living beneath the crust. Dale set down his coffee, actual coffee somehow, because the man traveled prepared, and tilted his head, listening to the ground the way another man might listen for a storm. "Huh," he said quietly, almost to himself. "That's not a heartbeat rhythm. That's a drumbeat rhythm." 4 alien heads turned toward him in the dark. "You are saying," Kessa whispered, "that this planet has inhabitants." Dale picked his coffee back up, eyes fixed on the humming ground. "I'm saying," he said, "somebody down there knows we're up here." The humming grew louder,